happens in the first episode. It's okay.
All right, everyone, welcome to the OC Chat Bar Brunch Hour with your favorite barista and bartender, where we inform, educate, and advise our shakers and stirs with a mix of fun and humor. So pour up your libations, be it coffee, tea, water, or your favorite liquor, and grab a seat at the bar. I'm Latasha.
I'm Celeste.
Now, before we go any further, we'd like to share some norms and disclaimers, house rules, if you will. So here are the norms. This is a phobia-free space. No racism, homophobia, sexism, etc. Respond with grace, and above all, behave respectfully, whether you agree or not. That's just some of the norms for pulling up to this bar. Now the disclaimers. The hosts of this OC chat bar are not licensed therapists, journalists, or counselors. We hope our conversations are a start point for your consideration. And if you need professional support, please seek it. We're in support of that all the way. Next up, we have a quick boost for you called Espresso Shots. Celeste, take it away.
Awesome. Okay. So, we're just going to start with a scenario. I want to hear what you have to say about it. All right. So, let's put this up here. Start the Jeopardy music anytime. Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. So, Natasha, you've been with a partner about a year and a half, and he tells you the following story. You guys are maybe having pillow talk, you're just kind of exchanging words, and he tells you the following story. Okay. So years ago, I smashed this ebony, not just any ebony, but this ebony who was considered my cousin by association. Not giving out names nor any pics, so y'all could forget that. Spending the night with me. I'm just chilling, playing the PS2 while she's texting on her Nokia Cricket phone. Oh, that's funny. Then
Taking it
we start sending out right, long time ago. And then she starts sending out signals and shit. I'm laying on the floor with my back against the couch in this hoodie, and sweatpants, so she could see the bulge brez. It says brez, BREHS. I caught her looking and gave her the look. She acts like it wasn't shit. So she sits next to me talking about, what you doing? I'm like, what it looked like. And then she kind of hit me with a lame move, fake ass yawn. Oh, I'm tired. Lay her on my shoulder. Lay her on my shoulder and shit with her hand on my leg. Girl, you ain't a slick. Let's just skip the semantics and keep it 100. She's acting all shocked and shit. Looked at her. I ain't got time to waste time. So we gonna do this or what? You silly fake giggle. And her hand on my dick now. Hit pause on the game. So what's good? Eventually she said, fuck it, and started giving me dome. I ended up smashing straight doggy style. I beat that shit the fuck up with no resentment whatsoever. I'm thinking we don't share any blood. My aunt ain't married to your great uncle, so fuck it. Years later, she cool, has kids, went to school, got a little pudgy though. I had my kid and went from a six-pack to a keg, Briz. But we never talked about what happened. So what was I wrong? I don't know. What would y'all do in this situation? So essentially, sleeping with someone who is considered family, not necessarily by blood, but what would you do?
I think he should have passed on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's something still taboo about it. It's almost like saying if you were step siblings or something like that. You know what I mean? I just feel like it shouldn't have happened. Just if that's like family, that's it. But that's just my opinion. That's my yeah. And you saying what would I do as a partner?
Sorry, go ahead. Yes, what would you do as a partner?
You're saying, well, I'd be grossed out. Because if that wasn't the line for him, what else will he or who else won't he do? So I'd be a
Mm.
little grossed out. I don't know if it would be enough to break up, but it would have questions swirling in the back of my mind about his like character and what his
Mhm.
limitations are when it comes to
Mhm.
sex or even other things. How
Yeah,
about
I
you?
definitely yeah, I could definitely see your point, and I could agree.
If
Yeah,
he
I
would
I
say it,
don't
I'd
know
be
if
like,
you should have kept that in the vault, because
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
keep that
They
in the
should
vault.
they should have tortured that one out of you. Not free. Not free.
Yeah.
Not don't get All right. So we want to hear what you guys would say in the comments. So definitely let us know, what would you do? Is it a make or break, or is it okay?
Keep
But
it in
now
the
it's
vault.
out. It's out. What's next up on
Alright,
our expression class, Celeste?
our next scenario. Okay. So this is from Six Brown Chicks. Shout out to Six Brown Chicks on Instagram.
Yes, yes.
Okay. What kind of lame choose? So it's baby mama drama. So let's baby mama, baby daddy drama, I should say. So, what kind of lame chooses his mama over his baby mama? His mom is so immature, always beefing with me. And when I try to tone things down between us, she posts this tea, quote unquote, on Facebook. Last time we fought because she visited her grandson and her house was dirty. My baby daddy was home with our 10-month-old, and so I'm allowed to celebrate. It was my bestie's birthday, and we went clubbing. His mama posted pics of my dirty kitchen, dishes in the sink, and flying roaches because my baby daddy left the kitchen window open. I told her instead of shaming me, she should have cleaned the house. All hell broke loose. My baby daddy went to his mom's house. He did a scroll down. Um, he did a Facebook Live and claimed that I never clean up. And I don't know how we made a baby because she don't fuck me no more. All she do is eat. He tagged me in the post, and my two sneaky links jumped in the conversation and revealed that I'm hooking up with them. Baby daddy responded publicly. Then he wanted a paternity test for our child. I was furious and embarrassed. I want to try all over again with my baby daddy, but he acts like he hates me. What to do? Okay. A lot going on there.
A whole lot. I'm glad she knows to be ashamed, but I feel like everybody else needs to be ashamed too. It's just like, at what point do you log off the internet? At what point do you leave the people's internet alone and not put more out there? I think that should also be the question.
Mm.
Sometimes I think we share too much.
Mm.
But what
I
would you
guess
do?
when
Honey, leave that man alone.
yeah.
Leave that man
Mhm,
alone.
mhm,
Let me say this.
mhm.
Leave this man. Leave this man alone as best as you can.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you do
yeah.
allegedly have a child together. I think it's his child. I don't. There was a question about a paternity test, but if it's not his child, just leave it alone.
Mhm,
Let it go, because it's only going to drag you down. Because once you have
mhm,
mother-in-law or even father-in-laws who are problematic, just the family
mhm,
unit that's problematic, that's something I told myself that would be a make or break for me in a relationship. And so for me to
mhm.
her, let that be it. Keep your distance and let that be it.
And that having a kid with somebody who like you cannot stand or you just do not get along, that's a freaking life sentence. So I
Oh,
I feel for her. I feel for her.
yes. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That is that bond is binding beyond 18.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you to Six Brown Chicks for giving us that scenario. And then our last but not least, just posing a question. So, reality TV or influencer life, what would you do? Would you ever, if you had the opportunity to be in a reality TV show or be an influencer, would you take it? Why or why not?
Well, I guess our question is answered because technically when you do a podcast, you're out there for social media. You
No.
have to an extent. So I feel like we're taking on that lifestyle one way or the other, because once you put something on the internet, it's out there for everybody to judge and criticize. You know what I mean? So
Mhm,
you enter the social media space. I don't know if I'd ever be an influencer. I did consider YouTube at one point.
mhm,
But that's what kind of stopped me. I was like, damn, do I want people in my space like that, in my face like that, in my, like, not too much remains private?
mhm.
So I don't know. I don't think I would do, and this might sound hypocritical, I don't think I would do like reality TV shows and such like that, like Love and Hip Hop, Jerry Springer when it was on, like
Mhm.
those type of TV shows, because I have my qualms about those.
Mhm.
But maybe influencer where you can control the narrative a little bit better, maybe, especially now
Mhm.
that we're doing this podcast. You?
Mm. I actually wouldn't mind being on reality TV. I'm gonna say this. I grew up on the Bad Girls Club. Do you remember the Bad Girls Club?
Oh my, I ain't gonna sleep because of y'all. You don't gonna
Yup,
sleep because of me.
me.
I ain't gonna sleep because of y'all. That's the one clip I remember.
That's my show. That was my show. I was like, freshman in college, and there was someone on YouTube who would like upload the videos on YouTube, the
Mhm.
episodes on YouTube. So season 4 with Natalie Nunn, I don't know if that rings a bell for you, was my first kind of experience at the Bad Girls Club, and I was hooked.
Mm.
I proceeded to watch until like season 8, something like that, and like jumped in with different seasons, and then it started to get a little too rowdy, jumping each
Yeah,
other
yeah.
and what have you. So I always wanted to be on the Bad Girls Club, even though I don't have that kind of personality. It just seemed glamorous and fun and funny, and
The alter
I don't know.
egos.
Yeah, exactly. So I would be open to it. I'm not gonna lie, but who
Wow,
knows?
really? Okay, okay. I don't know. I just feel like at what point do we cut the camera and at what point do we say I can't trade my character for ratings? You know what I mean? And maybe
True.
this is respectability politics, but I also feel like there's a fine line that they're towing when they do some of the things there. And I don't know, it's questionable.
Yeah, especially
It's
as a woman of
questionable.
color in any of those reality TV shows, your character really takes a hit according to
Yes.
production. They just
Yeah.
really like mince you up. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
So I don't think I could do the reality TV just because I don't want somebody controlling the narrative or putting a narrative on me as the angry black woman or the Jezebel or those things which we can do in another podcast and talk about a little bit more deeper for those who might not know or for those who are more curious about that stuff. But
mhm,
I think I would do the influencer, or I am doing the influencer because I can control more of that, regardless of how
mhm.
I interpret it. I know what I'm putting out.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that was our espresso shot segment. Celeste, any final thoughts on any of our scenarios?
You guys, if you have chime into this conversation. If you have any takeaways or anything that you'd like to add, please don't be afraid to email us at the ochatbar@gmail.com.
All right. Or drop it in our comments section. And we'll post all of this. We'll have all of this pinned, the email, the Google Voice number if you want to call and leave a voicemail, since this is already pre-recorded. We hope to do live shows in the future. Take us there, take us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for the espresso shot segment. Next up, shakers and stirs. In this part of the segment, we are going to shake it up and stir the pot a bit with some facts, some opinions, and a mixture of feelings. And we expect you to do the same, fellow shakers and stirs, either on Google Voice 443-478-3667, or feel free to leave a voicemail, since this, like I said, is already pre-recorded, or on our comment section. Drop that comment. Let us know what you're thinking as you're listening to this, or email us at the ochatbar@gmail.com. You will be kept anonymous. If you'd like, you can put in the email whether or not you want to be kept anonymous. So today we're going to discuss our problematic faves. And first up, what and who are problematic faves? Celeste, talk to them.
So when you think about a problematic fave, you want to know, where the heck does that term even come from? So we're just using the definition from a 2013 Tumblr blog called "Your Faves Are Problematic." Essentially, the user just archived instances of racism and homophobia, or by people who are essentially beloved celebrities. So we're just going off of that definition in particular, just for this conversation. So we are talking about who our favorite or our problematic faves are. So, we're making a list, right? We're making a list.
And this,
So our first problematic fave we have, Kanye West. Some of the things that he's said, a lot of the things that he's said and is saying, and how that's accelerated over the years. So just to give you an idea of why he would be a problematic fave, um, He said, and I quote, "When you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. You were there for 400 years and it's all of y'all. It's like we're mentally imprisoned. To make myself clear, of course, I know that slaves did not get shackled and put on a boat by free will. My point is to have stayed in that position, even though the numbers were on our side, means that we were mentally enslaved. The reason why I brought 400 years, brought up the 400-year point is because we can't be mentally imprisoned for another 400 years. We need free thought now. Even the statement was, yeah, essentially just saying that slavery was a choice, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then also wearing a White Lives Matter shirt in the 2022 Paris Fashion Week in one of his Yeezy shows, and doing so with Candace Owens. That's one of maybe not necessarily our fave, but someone in the entertainment industry who we're identifying as problematic.
Yeah.
Next person is Dr. Dre. So Dr. Dre, a rapper who was in NWA and now is a billion-dollar mogul. So essentially, Dr. Dre, why is he problematic? So, um, in 1991, he had ended up brutally assaulting the journalist Dee Barnes. Dee Barnes, if you don't know, she's like a hip hop veteran. She's been involved in kind of the culture conversation for a really long time. Essentially, what he did was at an industry party in 1991, he ended up cornering her because she had done an interview with Ice Cube, and it was perceived that he was insulting the rest of the NWA groups. And he had ended up assaulting her brutally, so much so that she still has migraines. According to an interview that she had given from Miss Magazine in 2013, she still has migraines from the assault. And he
Wow.
even has, yeah, right? It's crazy. Um, so,
And it's so crazy because she just simply conducted the interview and he attacked her. Did he attack Ice-T or any or whosoever else did the interview against with the anti NWA rhetoric or what have you?
of course not.
Of course
Of
not.
course not.
Right? Right. Of course not. And so
Mhm.
funny enough, when I was looking at it too, he issued an apology in 2015. But I have to question what the motivation and behavior was behind the apology because he had just released a new album recently, and then his Beats company had sold for one point something $1 billion. And then that was in 2015. But when they were divorcing, his wife alleges that he, as recent as 2016, a year after the apology, that he abused her or kicked down a door while she hid from his rage. And then there were other instances of abuse. So, and she's talking about post-traumatic stress syndrome. And in his apology, I don't know. Like, you can apologize, but if it's not changed behavior, does it really count?
Mhm. Mhm. It makes sense. Does it make sense? It's a good point. It's a good point. Um, I mean, Hollywood essentially has kind of bypassed the incident as well.
Mhm.
So he has an award actually named after him called the Dr. Dre Global Impact Award. In 2024, Jay-Z was given this award, and in 2025, Alicia Keys is set to get this award as well. So yeah, the industry is still kind of bypassing a lot of bypassing his behavior.
Mm.
The next person, Azealia Banks. Azealia Banks, is a rapper. Uh, so essentially, she goes on tirades, or used to go on tirades on what was formerly known now is X, but formerly known as Twitter,
Mhm.
stating things that being gay and transgender is not actually a natural thing, that it's a trauma response, that science lied to all of you. So insulting the LGBTQ plus community, calling celebrities the F word, starts with F, ends with a G, put it
Mhm.
together. Um, and also going on an 8-hour tirade. I actually remember this tirade because I used to follow her on Twitter, and I used to love
Oh.
following her and her music on Twitter. So I
Mhm.
remember she started subtweeting or whatever. She started insulting Zayn Malik, which is one of the is a former member of one of the boy bands One Direction. She's like really popular. It was really
Mhm.
popular at the time. And then Sky Jackson, an actress from the Disney. Sky Jackson
Mhm.
essentially subtweeted her, and she went on a tirade towards her, and it was just kind of vile and terrible. And I remember there were news. It was in the news like the next day, and like a lot of different articles that it was so vile, it was so intense that it
Oh
went on
wow,
for
I
eight
didn't know.
hours, and oh yeah, it was. I
So
remember I was.
I've never followed her,
Mhm,
but I always hear about like moments or clips of like her Azalea Banks at it again type thing.
yeah.
But I've never like follow her music. But when I was looking through through the list that you sent me, I saw a tweet and it was against Dolce and Gabbana.
Hmm.
And the person who wrote the article was like, "Wow, most of Azalea Banks' views seem pointless. This one we can get behind." And
Hmm.
it's when she lashed out about against Dolce and Gabbana for their spring 2013 collection,
Hmm.
which had stereotypes of Black women. But then I'm like, you know, does the work or good moments outweigh the bad or take precedence? Like, do we try to still find the good in people type of thing, you know?
Hmm.
Because it's one thing to have a one-off, but when it's your pattern of behavior, do we keep looking for the good, or is it kind of like, okay, this is a summation of this person?
Hmm.
You know what I
That's a
mean?
good. Yeah, that's a good point. I've always appreciated how she's very perceptive when it comes to analyzing society and culture. She just seems to always have a very accurate, according to me, it is a very perceptive, I'll just say, perceptive insights about race and culture and sexism and how the music industry and how Hollywood interacts with those things,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is one of the reasons I loved following her. But yeah, just relative to its repeated behavior, she kind of seems like an asshole.
And then it's like she's definitely a problematic fave for you because it's just like love when she does the, like you said, the cultural component and the race component
Hmm.
and etc. But then it's like you're over here being essentially over homophobic. And I remember in the thing she tried to say she was bisexual or she is bisexual.
Yeah.
It's like, does that excuse it though? Just because I'm of the group, does that mean I can truly insult the group? Is
Hmm.
that like an excuse or Mhm.
Yeah, it just seems like a free for all for her. It's just like it's like being embraced for a hug and then violently pushed away. It's very. I had to step away from following her after a while.
Yeah, I can just imagine. All right, who's up next on your celebrity list?
So J.K. Rowling. Generally J.K. Rowling consistently aligns herself with her transphobic figures, liking transphobic tweets, and eventually supporting transphobic causes, financially supporting transphobic causes.
Mm.
Um, uh, yeah, it's kind of crazy because Harry Potter has been kind of the thing I've heard about
It's
since the
iconic.
90s. I was never allowed to. I'm sorry.
No, I said it's iconic, essentially,
Yeah,
for
I
a
was
lot of
never
people.
allowed
Harry
to
Potter.
read them, but yeah. But essentially, she
Oh
is
no.
an unrepentant, unapologetic kind of transphobe, even supporting policies against the trans community in the UK. So yes, so that's J.K. Rowling. P. Diddy is one of our, not necessarily a fave, and these aren't saying that there are problematic faves, essentially. They're just people in the entertainment industry who are identified as problematic faves. So P. Diddy, accused of sex trafficking and racketeering and abuse of the singer Cassie. Um, yeah, so P. Diddy, the
It's
whole
the
case.
same.
What are your thoughts on that? I'm sorry.
So for J.K. Rowling, I will say I don't know.
Hmm.
She's never been a fave of mine. I don't follow her or anything like that. But it goes
Hmm.
back to the question with some of these problematic faves: can we separate the artist from their work type thing?
Hmm.
Because for me, Harry Potter is one of those things like when I'm stressed out, I'm having anxiety, or I'm studying, or just for any setting, really, I will play those things to the point where like I can tell you what the lines are going to be or what scenes are coming because I watch it so many times. And I, you know what I mean? Because I had bought it on like Prime or what have you. And like
Hmm.
when I found out about her transphobia, I was like, do I delete them? And then it was like, but you paid for them already and they help your anxiety. Just don't
Mm,
feed into her any more than you already have. You know what I mean? Like
mhm,
the damage is done type of thing. But like, what do y'all think out there? Should I have to delete the Harry Potters that I watch? I don't
mm,
follow her. I don't post to her. I don't buy anything else. Or is it kind of like the damage is done? You already bought it, but just keep away moving forward because she's so
mhm,
problematic. You know what I
mhm,
mean? I'm glad that the actors, like the main actors, have like and actresses have like separated themselves from her and distanced themselves
mhm,
from her and have come out as like transgender friendly or supportive. But
mhm,
it's crazy because that's somebody who's out in the spotlight. And the fact that she's putting money behind the policy and things,
mhm,
that's even worse. It's one thing to just talk about it, but she's about it, you know, which is even more.
mhm,
As for P. Diddy, he also issued an apology before things really hit the fan. And it was
mhm,
like one of those like, sorry, it was the lowest point of my life.
mhm.
Therapy, yeah, I'm therapying it away, and I asked God for forgiveness. And I'm just like, yeah, but what's gonna change? And then
Right.
shit hit the fan, and you're like, bruh, that apology is but a pebble in the pond. And it
Mhm,
really rippled because you had done some fuck shit. You were, as we would call it, bottom shelf liquor behavior as well. You know,
mhm,
all these people in
mhm,
a way kind of are, which is why there are problematic faves.
mhm,
But there were people who were doing like outside of the courthouse, I think it was, where his case was being held. They
mhm.
were like doing baby oil parties. I think it was something like that. And I was like, what?
Oh, mhm,
To hear all his charges and then be out there like, what? What is the association like? What made you think that that was okay to
mhm,
essentially mock the people that he's harmed? You know what I mean?
mhm,
So how far do we take this? Do we iconicize these people? Like, you know, when do
mhm.
you say like, okay, it's time to cut the cord?
Yeah, and one of your points relative to him having an apology statement, I always have to think like, who are these apologies for? I mean, they're
Mhm.
really for the general public.
Mhm.
And then, after an apology, there has to be some kind of action or consequence. And a
Yeah,
lot of the times, these like larger apologies just feel like empty, I want to say platitudes, but empty kind of nothing statements like, yeah, okay, there is no action behind it, so what really does it mean?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and
Is
what
it
does
going
comp
to change behavior or is it just a tactic? Because they always say most cases are decided in the living room of
Mhm,
homes, right?
mhm,
Especially when they're televised and things.
mhm,
And it's how the public perceives you. So, like you said, who's the apology for? Is it to
mhm,
save your ass? Or
mhm,
are you really going to change when you issue this apology? Like, did Dr. Dre change? Is his wife lying? You know?
mhm,
Or are her allegations true that happened but a year after the apology was issued? Was it a matter of convenience, or
mhm,
was it you're truly going to take accountability? You know,
mhm,
and then if we find out that he was lying, or find out what we find out about Diddy, when do we say, okay, like it's his producing was this was that, but at the end of the day, this motherfucker gotta go.
mhm,
He's too
mhm,
problematic to remain a fave, or she's
mhm,
too problematic to remain a fave. You know, and
mhm,
please, as we said, people chime in the comments as you're listening to this about what you think, and we'll go from there.
mhm.
Ashley's up next.
So, R. Kelly is up next. I think he's been, for the most part, ousted in general society, but, 55 years old, was convicted of 3 counts of producing child pornography and 3 counts of enticing a minor to engage in sexual activity. He married Aaliyah at 15 years old, singer Aaliyah, R&B singer Aaliyah,
Mm-hmm.
and then while being 27 at the time in 1994. Um, and since then, he's just had a consistent record of preying on young women. Um, more notably, let me find it. More notably,
Mm-hmm. And he's has been ongoing because I've heard things over the years, even when I was younger, about R. Kelly.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of been like an open secret for a really long time. And
mhm,
he just had
mhm.
the influence and the people to be able to cover up for him. Um,
And I
yeah.
think to an extent,
So
misogyny in this. Mm-hmm.
What was that?
And I said I think to an extent misogyny plays a role in this as well.
Hmm. Yes, very much so. Very
I
much so.
think,
Uh,
yeah, I think if it wasn't like black women that he was going after, as far as we know, it would have been dealt with a long time ago. Misogynoir,
right.
I should say.
Um, Essentially, this was years ago in the early 2000s. He was taping
Mhm.
sex acts and enticing a minor to participate in them. Um, yeah, yeah, that was in the early 2000s. More notably, the R. Kelly sex tape that was so popular and was bootlegged and kind of circulated around
Mhm.
the industry and around kind of mainstream culture. Just like an open secret that people talked about, joked about on radio. I remember hearing about it when I was younger because I would listen to hip hop
Yeah.
radio and R&B
Mhm.
radio was just kind of something that people laughed and shrugged about, but it
Yeah.
really impacted that young woman. Even have her name here. I don't want to necessarily say her name, but um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So it's R. Kelly for you, one of the
Yeah,
problematic
and I remember,
figures.
funny enough that you mentioned that too, because I also remembered when I was on middle school, I was on the bus and somebody would mention that they watched it. And I remember somebody saying like, she asked for it. She seemed to know what she was,
Mm,
you know what I mean? And then when his
mm-hmm,
case came up, a friend of mine was in the dollar store and she was standing in line and she heard a guy talking about it's just a little sex, what they're complaining about. You know what I
mm,
mean? And it's very interesting when young girls, especially young black girls, are being preyed upon and harmed. All of a sudden, it's like the onus is on her, like the victim blaming is
mm-hmm,
even worse in I think in our community than in other communities. And that's just my opinion. I
mm-hmm,
could be wrong statistically, but that's just my opinion.
mm-hmm,
Um, they even talk about like, so there was a study done, this was done years ago, like 28 years ago, right? And I don't
mm-hmm,
know what the stats are now, especially with the adolescent pregnancy numbers declining, which whoop,
mm-hmm.
whoop, yay, yay, young girls and young boys, yay. um, but they did a study to find out about age gaps between fathers and mothers, and they
Mhm,
found that school age, or just children from 15 to 19, like teens from 15 to 19,
mhm,
their partners were at least like had a partner age 20 or older. And then
mhm,
people would be like, oh, she's fast. No, she's a child. She was groomed. He preyed
mhm,
upon her. So, like, at what point do we say this is a sexual predator? Y'all openly watched a child porn video and then blame that child for what was done to them.
mhm,
At what point do you say this has to go? Because his sales, his listening, if I'm not
mhm,
mistaken, there was a news report that people were listening to his records even more. And
mm,
I'm not gonna lie, for a very long time now, I try to avoid his music because I'm just like,
mhm,
I'm not giving him the streaming power. I'm not, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Same thing for our next fave that's up, which is Chris Brown.
Yeah, I just want to say, yeah, I feel like as millennials, or both millennial people here, both millennials, you guys, yeah, it's kind of a strong stance to have because I know millennials who are still, who still listen to his music and they just don't give a fuck. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. Um, So, relative to Chris Brown, I know people usually assume that his violence began and ended with Rihanna in their late 2000s.
Mhm.
He's consistently had a series of offenses in the last decade or so. So, in 2017, his ex-girlfriend, Karuche
Mhm.
Tran. She was granted a 5-year restraining order after sharing that he physically assaulted her, threatened to kill her and her friends, and pushed her down a flight of stairs, uh, among other violent text messages, things that he gave her. Um, the singer Frank Ocean claimed that, um, well, he deleted these tweets, but he did claim that a couple of guys attacked him, saying homophobic slurs, and that a woman saying homophobic slurs, that Brown and a couple of guys, excuse me, had said homophobic slurs, and that a woman sued Chris Brown for $20 million for drugging and raping her on a yacht. And then as of March 2023, an anonymous woman claimed that Chris Brown physically assaulted his girlfriend, Amika Harris, while they were on
Mhm.
vacation in Tulum, Mexico. So yeah, he has a history of violence, physical violence, and then also it's transpired to a harmful online presence, rather insulting Black women online. Uh, Specifically, different lyrics that he has. Da, 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 da. Yeah. So in a 2019 song called "Need a Stack," uh, he's on the song with Lil Wayne, where he says, and I quote, "Only want to fuck the black bitches with the nice hair."
Oh
Um,
dear. That's such a backhanded
yeah,
compliment. I'm gonna call you a bitch,
yeah,
but that's such a nice.
yeah, yeah. So, and then later, when people had kind of pushed back against his lyrics, he had doubled down, um, insulting the women
Oh
on
Lord.
Instagram and the blogosphere. So, yeah, he just doesn't really give a damn.
He doesn't. And you know what's so funny? I stopped listening to him after the Rihanna situation because I was like, I'm not
Mhm,
going to support someone who's abusive because
mhm,
most men, in my opinion, are serial abusers,
mhm,
right? And I said, I'm not gonna listen to him. And for the past few years, I've kept him off my playlist. If he pops up, I skip
mhm,
whatever. And then I started seeing him like into like feature with Chloe Bailey, and is it Chloe Bailey? Right, Chloe Bailey and then
mhm,
Sierra. And I was like, well, okay, it's been a
yeah,
while. It seems even Rihanna herself was concerned about him and kind of forgave him and whatever. And I was like,
mhm,
okay, what am I holding on to? I haven't heard much about him. He seems to have calmed down. And then I started reading the stuff that you just mentioned and all the articles, and I was like,
mhm.
yeah, nigga gotta go. I might have to start going back to the skip button, and his
Yeah.
concerts sell out. And it's a lot of black women in there,
Mhm,
but I think black women, we tend to pander to black men, and that sucks to say, but we give them more grace than we give our own selves and like homegirls. I'm convinced of that because when
mhm,
you see some of the stuff that some of these black guys do, and it's still us listening to them and defending them, it's
mhm,
kind of like, okay, at what point do we just be like, we sound ridiculous?
mhm,
They're too problematic to remain a fave.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, I know people personally who still support Chris Brown and
Mhm.
unapologetically as well. I personally can't listen to anything after the Rihanna incident, but
Sorry.
told myself I personally can't listen to it. Anything after the Rihanna incident, everything before then, I'm still listening to like wall to wall and what have
Yeah.
you. So yeah, 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 I understand and completely agree. Yeah. So that's our entertainment problematic faves, or not ours, but the list of entertainment problematic faves that were pulled from. I know that you have kind of the other side of the historical figures.
Yes, but before we move into that, there was a Reddit segment that we looked at, and some people are having this conversation, and the question was, can you separate an artist from their work if the creator was not a good person? Just to sum it up for the sake of time, it seems that most of the opinions were leaning towards you just need to tell the whole story, but not sacrifice the experience of the creator's work. So I don't know if I agree with that, because it's just like, if I'm consuming their work, it funds their pockets, and it might even fuel their behavior, or even
Mhm,
other people's behavior who want to do the things that they do. So I'm still trying to answer that question. Can you separate the artist from their work? Can your problematic phase be enjoyed as artists or what have you, or do we throw it all out the window, throw the baby out with the bathwater? And the
mhm.
historical phase, problematic phase, are probably not going to make that any easier. So
Right.
first up, we've got good old Coco Chanel, the fashion house designer who during World War II sided with Germany and gave up her two Jewish business partners. Now, there's been some theorizing from her fans who want to defend her that she might have been a double agent because of her friendship with Winston Churchill, but
Mhm,
there's never been any proof behind that, any evidence of that.
mhm,
So we're just gonna go Coco Chanel was problematic. She even
mhm.
dated one of the German soldiers. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it pains me to put this up there, civil rights activist, cheater, and predator. He would have definitely been a part of the Me Too movement. Pablo Picasso, artist who died as recently as in 1973. And I say recently to emphasize the fact that he was only alive a few years ago. He's not that far off that like we think. He was
Mhm.
very violent towards women, so much so that he would have definitely been called out by the Me Too movement as well.
Mhm.
Two of his partners committed suicide while others had mental breakdown. He burned a woman's face with a cigarette, cheated on his wife,
Mm.
abandoned his illegitimate children, and so much more. What do you think of those three so far? I have a few more coming up, but what do you think, Celeste?
It's kind of crazy. I was reading an article that was by someone who considered themselves an MLK scholar. And
Mhm.
by the way, any of the things, the articles that we're talking about, we will put in the show notes, so then you
Yes.
guys can follow along if you'd like to join into the conversation or you're just curious. Um, but anyway, just relative to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., yeah, that's crazy. I did not know a lot of uh, that information. I will say in one of the articles that I had read relative to him at the time that I think it was I think it's Woodrow Wilson, I believe, was president, he allowed for J. Edgar Hoover, who had led the CIA at the time, to be able to tap or keep tabs on political enemies, essentially.
Mhm.
And he caught a lot of quotes and um, conversations, private conversations that Dr. MLK was having that was again supposed to be private, revealing in this article it says that it revealed that he was a part of an orgy with him and 11 other him and other colleagues are having an orgy with women. In
Right.
addition to supporting the sexual assault of a woman, hearing a sexual assault as he was writing notes, and then actually laughing about it and encouraging it. So it's really interesting, but I do think that it marks that these, you know, um, people can do or can be a part of really instrumental things in history. However, kind of what you were saying, it's not fair essentially to kind of sanitize their image to be
Mhm.
able to promote a particular narrative. I think it's to tell the story of who they were because they're humans. They're not,
Mhm.
they're not deities. So yeah.
Right. Right. And then another historical problematic fave is Dr. Seuss, Theodore Geisel. I hope I'm saying his name right, also known as Dr. Seuss. He wrote children's book, but cheated on his ill wife, which led to her suicide. And 6 of his books are no longer being published due to racist undertones. And we
Mhm.
all know one fish, two fish. We all know green eggs and ham, or at least most of us. And
Mhm.
I'm from Jamaica, and I still remember it made its way to Jamaica.
Mhm.
J. Marion Sims, who's considered the father of gynecology, he operated on Black women without anesthesia, even though anesthesia was available. And a lot of what he researched, fistulas, all the things that he did to these Black women is considered pioneering, or was considered pioneering at that time in obstetrics. And so his statue was actually removed and put by his graveside because it was somewhere in New York. I think it was it Central Park? I'm not sure. Please don't quote me on that. And if you find out, drop it in the chat or we'll drop it in the show notes. So that's one person. And it was just really disheartening to read the things that he did, especially knowing he didn't have to do it.
Mhm.
Um, Hans Asperger, pediatrician who coined the term Asperger syndrome, was not a hero for youth, as a popular book newer tribes would have parents believe, particularly for autistic youth. Instead, he was on the committee that selected autistic children for the gas chamber and categorized them based on their usefulness, which the term for if they were high functioning was Asperger syndrome.
Mhm.
And he sent over 20 children to the gas chamber after they were experimented on
Mhm.
at a clinic that he would send them to in Vienna. Now, this one also stood out to me because I remember hearing about her. And I don't know when she died, but I do think there were interviews or clips that would be played for a while. Mother,
Mhm.
Mother Teresa. She was made a saint, but many of her over 300 missionaries saw people living in squalor. When
Mhm.
confronted about the deplorable conditions in many of her missionaries, she was quoted as saying, "There is something beautiful in seeing the poor accept their lot to suffer like Christ's passion. The world
Mhm.
gains much from their suffering." And I was like, what kind of delulu bullshit?
Mhm.
It was to the point where people who investigated her missionaries and found the ones that were very problematic, um, equated it to the Holocaust, the conditions of the Holocaust, and how those prisoners were found. And I
Mhm.
was like, their suffering, we gain much from their suffering. And she
Mhm.
raised millions of dollars, and people who it was meant for, did not see it.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, it's funny that the expression is like, "Oh, I'm not Mother Teresa," or what have you. She's, essentially, uh,
Huh?
kinda the expression that people say, like, "Oh, do you wanna be like Mother Teresa?" Trying to compare, like, are you like the most ultimately
Yeah,
selfless person or what have you, when that's not true at all.
not true.
Not true at all.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. She was a problematic fave to say the least.
Mm,
Next up, P.T. Barnum of Barnum and Bailey Circus, where he owned slaves, which was not depicted in the movie, and used disabled people for his freak shows. Henry Ford of the Ford Auto Company was anti Semitic and bought anti Semitic newspaper with over thousands of followers. Like the celebrity faves, he apologized, but they did point out that he apologized when it started to hurt the company. So, once
mhm.
again, what's the motivation? Is it just convenient, or your dollars dip and now all of a sudden you see the light? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Woodrow Wilson was a USA president and Nobel Peace Prize winner, but was racist and supported segregation. He even called Black people an inferior race.
Mhm.
Um, Thomas Jefferson, founding father and one of the authors of the Declaration of Independence, spoke of liberty, but owned slaves, particularly 14-year-old Sally Hemings, who was not able to get away from him until after his death.
Mhm.
Rudyard Kipling, many of us know his poems, the book Jungle Book, wrote the White Man Manifesto, which was beloved by FDR, and coined the term the white man's burden, which is the belief that it's white people's moral duty to conquer non-white races and teach them about civilized society.
Mm. I
Yeah.
remember I
Mm-hmm.
remember, writing about that in my thesis paper in graduate school, I was talking about how to decolonize a classroom. It's published, once upon a time. It's in
Yeah.
2016. But, being really shocked because I was like, "Is this the same guy that made the Jungle Book?"
Right, right. And it's interesting, right? Because that's what makes him a fave, the Jungle Book. But
Mhm,
what makes him problematic is also his writing, and it's
mhm,
something else that he wrote, which was the White Man's Manifesto. And it's just like, oh my gosh, are you of two minds, or
mm,
like what happened? How does that one brain produce these same works that are considered great by different groups of people? Like, how does that come to be? How do you
mhm,
sit there writing while somebody's being assaulted, as King
mhm,
did, as it is alleged that King did? How does that occur? Next up is Steve Jobs, who is the Apple co-founder. He was a jerk to his employees, it's alleged, and he was a deadbeat to his daughter, to the point where her and her mother had to be on welfare. Towards the end, or
mhm,
when she got older, he did take care of her a little bit, but never really spent time with her.
mhm.
And then, of course, problematic fave. Some people still love this man, Christopher Columbus. Who discovered nada because it was already there. That's why he's laying in pieces throughout Europe, if I remember correctly. But,
Uh-huh.
but Christopher Columbus was he committed heinous crimes, torture. He and his team assaulted women and many of the tribes that they came upon. We've all read it in the well, I'd like to think we all read it in the history books, but we know how some books are slanted.
Right.
But yeah, so problematic faves, and it goes back to the question. I'll ask it again. Can we separate the artist from their work, the creator from their work? Should
Mhm,
Coco Chanel be shelved, or is it okay to consume her fashion knowing that she sided with the Germans and she gave up two of her partners because they were Jewish?
mhm,
Woodrow Wilson, should his Nobel Peace Prize be taken back? Should he be assessed in more full, robust way? And then we say, like, listen, Nobel Peace Prize, whatever you got it for, you don't represent what it embodies. It's time to
mhm,
take that back. Like, you know what I mean? At
mhm,
Can we go back? Can we punish them today for what they did yesterday? Or is
mhm,
it just leave it in yesterday?
mhm. Hmm,
I don't
hmm.
know.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's almost like, your proximity to how offensive their actions were. So, for
Mhm.
example, I hate to say this for Cecilia Banks, but again, I think I appreciate again her perceptive. Well, I'm talking about historical figures. I'm just kind of going to entertainment figures as well. It just her perception of society and culture has been very accurate, especially as like just a black woman operating in this world. Um,
Mhm.
I am willing to kind of forgive or kind of ignore certain things. Kind of, not really. Not really everything. So maybe not necessarily a fave, but someone I lean into when she has something to say that's robust or meaningful or substantive.
Mm. So
What are your
then
thoughts?
for her, the positive moments outweigh everything else, or is that what you
Ooh,
mean?
no, no, I don't know about that.
Okay.
I will say when she has a rant to say about society and culture, I lean into what she says. But that doesn't necessarily erase everything that she has said.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
So
don't
take
know.
it with a grain of salt. So, so,
Yes.
so what you're saying is you can, in fact, separate the creator from their work, especially if the work is something substantive.
I can't necessarily separate it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm able to appreciate pieces of their work or appreciate certain things while also keeping in mind that this person has a track record of being an asshole. um, so yeah, that's I mean that's kind of what immediately comes to mind. What are your thoughts?
I still struggle. Like I said, I struggle with this question and the answer
Mhm,
because there are times where I'm like, we should shelf their asses, like make them an example, cut cut them out of the mainstream. But then I'm like, it's almost like cancel culture, and I'm just like, does that really work?
mhm,
Um, you know what I mean?
mhm,
What do we learn from that? And then if we're saying to table their work for someone like MLK, what does that take away from progress and the like where we are today? What damage would that do?
mhm,
You know? So I'm leaning more towards in some instances, which it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't.
mhm,
Because if I say shelf the work, take it out of the books, or take it off the stores, take it whatever, take back the prize,
mhm,
then we miss the lesson and we miss their contributions. But
mhm,
at the same time, if I say keep the contribution in the work and just tell the story, I feel like it becomes a shit. Well, if they did it, why can't I? If they got away with
mhm,
it, and we hear this already, especially like for instance when we hear something happening in the news. Like I think in Diddy's case, they even argued something like this, where there was a case where a lot of things were dismissed. I
mhm,
forgot the name of the case, and they said, why can't his case be like such and such? Is it because he's a black man
mhm.
or something like that?
Yeah.
So and so this it's like a double-edged sword. Damn if you do, damn if you don't,
Mhm,
you know?
mhm,
So I guess for now we keep the work, but then it becomes we took down the Confederate statues, which totally understand.
mhm,
Should we have kept those then? Is that what we're saying? Or is it
mhm,
like I said, there's some things where it's just like, fuck what they did. They're so problematic they cannot be a fave anymore.
mhm,
Is it case by case?
mhm. I think it might be a case by case basis. I don't know. I mean, that's a really good takeaway. And I also think that sometimes sanitizing I feel like how do I say this? I feel like essentially people sanitize their image. So like for example, when I was doing some of the reading on these historical figures, I
Mm-hmm.
remember especially in the early 2000s, like John Lennon being deified, and Imagine his song, whatever, he was so whatever, everyone loved him,
Mm-hmm.
but not knowing that he abused his wife, I think he was reading that he had beaten one of his I don't know. It escapes me. He had beaten his either one of his I think his wives to the point where she had like vision problems in one
Oh
eye.
my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So just being very physically abusive, the fact that he was a very physically abusive person, and just remembering all of the narratives around him in the early 2000s about how he was like the greatest thing, Beatles, the greatest thing, what have you,
Hmm.
and how that kind of deified him. So it made an excuse for everything else because, you never heard about, oh, how he would just kind of flip out on people and how he was a violent person. I mean, it's something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree.
Hmm.
Yeah. At what point do we say they're too problematic to be a fave?
Hmm.
Speaking of faves, our problematic fave, because we're not going to just let you share in the comments and stuff. We're going to join in too. This is a two-way street.
Hmm.
So, my problematic fave, and hear me out, he's no longer my fave, but this was the one that stood out because I got a lot of flack for this. And
Hmm.
and people would look at me like, Arf, what was Fidel Castro? I
Hmm.
know, I know. Now hear me out. I was born in Jamaica, lived there until I was about like 12, right?
Hmm.
And when I was growing up, we never knew Fidel as the enemy. We knew about his policies, countering illiteracy, helping out like social programs, things like that. He
Hmm.
was, Cuba is a friend to Jamaica. Jamaica is a friend to Cuba.
Hmm.
We still have student exchange programs or students going to Cuba to study to this day. And if I'm not mistaken, vice versa. And so Cuba was a friend to Jamaica. Jamaica was a friend to Cuba, and this was during the time of Fidel, Manley, and all that. And it grew into the years. It still continued, and when our prime minister died, he was at the funeral, like things like that. So like I never
Hmm.
knew him as the enemy until fast forward a few years into coming to America, and then
Hmm.
I was like, oh, dude is like most leaders, he's problematic.
Hmm.
And so I came to a point where I was just like, it made me question a lot of things, like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, how did I not learn this? But in all fairness, we learn our history first and then we learn about other people's history. We do current events, but you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so my question would have been to him, like, at what point did you become the villain that you were trying to fight? And when you realized, why didn't you turn back around? Or was the villainy always the plan? And that's a question I struggle with. And I
Hmm.
think that's a question to apply to some of these historical faves too, or even some of the celebrities. Like, at what point did you change, or was that always your persona?
Hmm.
Like, and the celebrity just like heightened it.
Hmm.
But it was like, did the power get to his head? Like, historian Lord Acton talks about the fact that he coined he made the assertion, power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And he said great men are almost always bad men. And we can,
Hmm.
extend that to include women. And I was just like, is that true though?
Hmm.
Is that true? But when you think about Mother Teresa and some other people, when you hear about what the church has done to people, it's
Hmm.
just like, is that true though?
Hmm.
I don't, or is that too myopic of a view to have, you know,
Hmm.
including when talking about Fidel Castro. Was he always this way? Or did the power corrupt him?
Hmm. Hmm.
But how about you? Who's your problematic fave? What do you think of what I just said?
I mean, yeah, of part of what you had just said, I think that well, I want to say that there's a study. I read something in passing that was saying after a certain amount of money, there seems to be like an empathy drop.
Oh.
Like just because essentially when you have enough power and influence, you're able to kind of separate yourself from larger society, separate yourself from it. Like you're in a different social class. You could afford exclusivity. You can afford to not deal with things if you don't want to. You can afford to kind of bypass the idea of waiting. So you have more of your time. You have more of your, you have more of a, how do I say this? You have more choices essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really have to interact with the general public, so it creates this disconnect. So I think that's something to say. There's something to say about that because access to resources really affect your values. If you're someone who is able to kind of separate yourself from people who are just kind of everyday people who are in the trenches, people who are in the working class, I think I want to say this. Um, if you're someone who's able to essentially bypass that kind of reality, you're not going to have a lot of empathy for people
Yeah.
that have different struggles.
Yeah.
So, well,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, so relative to my problematic fave is a little different. It's Lauryn Hill. I remember
Mhm.
growing up on the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I loved that CD. I played it to hell. It was wonderful. Um, my sister, I remember her destroying that CD. I don't know if she was just tired of me listening to it, but anyway,
She knew.
she knew. But essentially, in 2019, Lauren Hill's daughter Salah had claimed that Lauren Hill was very abusive and a very abusive parent. And she had said, I quote, "It's crazy. I'm playing this trauma back in my head as I speak to you." She'd be like, "Go get the belt. That's how you know you were in trouble. It's like walking to your death."
Oh.
My mom is an amazing woman, but she obviously didn't do everything right. And she added that that her physical punishment in particular, like Lauryn Hill's physical punishment in particular, was on some slavery shit. And this was set on like a 2-hour Instagram post that she had made in 2019. And Lauryn Hill did respond. By saying, this is, she was just kind of saying the way that she had disciplined her children reflects the way that reflects practices in slavery, and that
Mm.
she didn't really accept too much responsibility, but she did say that her daughter has a right to speak on her experiences. However, that there were experiences that she just couldn't. That there was no way that her children could identify with being someone who is in the spotlight, but also is responsible for raising children. So, yeah, that being said, I do still think there's a depth to Lauren Hill in an understanding of self,
Mhm.
even though she doesn't necessarily, even though she doesn't necessarily present all of that vulnerability all at once. Um, yeah. So, and I still hold the high regard to some of her lyrics and some of her songs relative to her album, relative to
Mhm.
some of the things that she's spoken on. She seems to have like this foresight about society and culture that she had way back in the 90s, which was very forward thinking, very, very forward thinking. And of
Right.
course, they seem like things that are accepted now, but back then, the way back when, that just was not the case. So I can appreciate her for her art. Also keeping in mind that this is the kind of uh, how she handled being a mother, which is or how she handled disciplining her child, I should say, children rather.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it's a lot to unpack and it's a lot to think about. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. Mm.
yeah,
So much about the problematic phase. So much about the problematic phase. This is getting a little heavy,
yeah.
but we're going to move into tea time where the sharing goes both ways. So we've shared our faves. We shared some of society's faves, be it historical or celebrities, right? Now let's talk about your problematic fave. Take a few seconds and think about who your problematic fave is. Is it someone who's a good parent but a terrible partner, or a terrible partner but a good parent? Is that even possible? Is it the uncle or aunt that is problematic but you love their toxic personality, or that cousin who you love their toxic behavior? Is it a celebrity or simply a friend? Let us know by calling 443-478-3667 and feel free to leave a voicemail, or email us at the OC chat bar, right? Or the good old comment box if you're bold enough, which we love our bold shakers and stirs, and let us know who your problematic fave is. And they're out there, guys. They're really out there, because there's just some people who you just got to question, like, whoa, what is going on?
Hmm.
Um,
And that's the OC chat bar at gmail.com.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, some of the questions I had, which were many throughout the podcast, right? Throughout when we were talking.
Mhm.
Um, I I wonder, and hear me out. Have you ever read the Scarlet Letter?
No,
It's
no.
an interesting book. I read it, I think, in high school.
Mhm.
Basically, a woman has a child out of wedlock in a Quaker or Pilgrim society. I don't remember which one. And when she had the child, she had committed adultery, was what it was assumed. And I
Mhm.
don't remember if the book ever revealed who the father was, but she would not reveal the father.
Mhm.
She had to wear a scarlet letter with an A that said adulterer. And spoiler alert, sorry. And so I wonder, should these public problematic faves be shamed somehow? Should they wear an equivalent of a scarlet letter? Should that
Mhm.
look like? Or should we forgive and or even forget? Is canceling them enough? If that ever like happens, what would that look like for MLK, Mother Teresa, Picasso, Chris Brown, or even Lauryn Hill? Like, do we take away certain things? Do we not give certain things anymore? Like how
Mhm.
some people lost brand deals? Like what should the consequences be? Should there be consequences?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I thought about when you were talking about that was who effectively gets canceled, even if we do decide to cancel someone, who effectively gets canceled.
Mm.
There was an article I remember reading a while ago about Janet Jackson, how she was essentially erased from her contributions in pop music, and how a lot of her dance moves, a lot of the things that she would do in concerts and what have you, a lot of things that artists implement into their work, into their music, into their choreography,
Mhm.
um, to this day is replicated by Janet Jackson. And how essentially after the Super Bowl incident where Justin Timberlake had essentially ripped off uh, piece of clothing and
Mhm.
showing her nipple. She by the I forget what his name is. He was essentially a kind of a big wig at CVS, and he wanted her to apologize, which she did apologize, but he didn't like how it didn't seem a very groveling. He wanted her to grovel and cry and just look kind of pathetic, and
Mm.
he was not about it. So essentially, he had ended up stopping or using his power and influence to prevent any of her newer music in the early 2000s to kind of come out, or after kind of the Nutty Professor and after the Super Bowl, you kind of just realize how much she's been erased because you just never really hear about her at all. But
Mhm.
she was still putting out music, more so popular outside of the United States. But he had
Mhm.
used his power and influence to be able to keep her out of the mainstream culture. She even tried to publish a book about herself, and which he essentially stopped from being published. So she was effectively canceled completely.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to your point relative to how effective is canceling really,
Mhm.
and who gets canceled effectively. Like how does that even work if you were to
Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
because we canceled Chrisette Michelle for a long time,
Yes, that's a good
but
point.
in my opinion, Kanye has done worse.
Mhm.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean? If we have
Mhm.
to say the lesser of the evils or the what have you, opposite, like, but we canceled Chrisette Michelle,
Mhm.
and even Megan Thee Stallion was almost canceled, and
Mhm.
she was in the right.
Mhm.
So you're right. Who gets canceled? Why do they get canceled? So
Mhm.
maybe canceling is not the best thing for these people, but
Mhm.
what should the consequences look like, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but we'll also leave those answers up to you guys in the comment section as well. Um, now we have, so we're gonna have a segment that's called bottom shelf liquor behavior. And I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but it's just behavior that is something that is either stupid or just plain poor behavior. And we'll have that. And hopefully, as time goes on, you guys will send us things that we can consider for bottom shelf liquor behavior. But as we close out, is accepting problematic faves in their work bottom shelf liquor behavior on our part? You tell us, sound off in the comment section, shakers and stirrers, shake it up, stir it up. Agree to disagree, but do it respectfully. And send us a chat if you want to. Send us, a Gmail if you want to, at the ochatbar@gmail.com, and let us know about your problematic fave in your life, or if it's a celebrity, whoever it may be. And just let us know, is accepting problematic faves in their work bottom shelf liquor behavior on our part or not? For top shelf liquor behavior today, we want to give you a shout out for giving us a listen and interacting with us. And now for last call, Celeste, shout out our socials.
Right. So you can follow us on the OC Chat Bar on our Instagram, or on TikTok, which is, I think it's the OC Chat Bar as well,
Yeah.
on all of our socials. And so we're on YouTube as well at the OC Chat Bar. So the OC Chat Bar, all of our socials, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And then also, of course, as I said before, plenty of times in the podcast, send us an email called the OC Chat at the OC Chat Bar at gmail.com.
All right. Well, Shakers and Stirs, it was great being here tonight, and we hope you get to enjoy our podcast and that you have a lot of opinions that you'll share in the comment or on our socials. And we see you next time at the same time. All right.
Bye. Peace.
Any final words, Celeste? Peace.
Peace. Yay, first episode.